Hi, Eddie Murray, former Detroit Lion. Make sure you watch Mike on Mike on YouTube.
What's going on YouTube? This is your boy Mr. Micro Mike, and today I'm going to talk about the game between the Detroit Lions, Los Angeles Chargers, how I think they're going to play out between each position group, the outcome, and what to expect come Sunday. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing my old uniform that I wore when I was in the military. Well, it's not hard to understand my thought and why I'm wearing this. Today, folks, is 9/11, as we all know. 18 years ago, planes went into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and a plane went down that was heading towards DC, likely the White House, due to individuals on the plane taking down the terrorists so they would do less harm with their sacrifice. Today is a humbling day for me, for the nation, and for everyone that was affected and alive during that time. I'm wearing this uniform because when that day happened, I swore an oath to my parents and to my friends that when I turned 17, I was going to serve my country and join the fight. That's why I'm wearing this uniform, and let's go ahead and get into the video now. Let's start with the quarterback position. You got Matthew Stafford versus Phillip Rivers. Matthew Stafford and Phillip Rivers both brought their teams to overtime. The Chargers won in overtime, the Lions tied. They both had very similar numbers. Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers had 25 completions for 34 attempts, 333 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 4 sacks, while Matthew Stafford had 27 completions, 45 attempts, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a lost fumble, and 3 sacks. Between two quarterbacks, they're very evenly matched in my opinion. They're both veterans. They understand the game. They both have the ability to come back in the fourth quarter. They both got, sometimes can be funky throwing motions with Stafford and his sidearm. And we all know Phillip Rivers and his crazy throw he does, his windup. But they both work. They're both good quarterbacks. And they're both trying to lead their teams to the playoffs. Time now. This is not a team, both teams that are trying to wait anymore. They both want to get to the playoffs. It starts with the quarterback position. Now, their lines had some issues when it comes to the Chargers getting 4 sacks, and with the Lions with Taylor Decker. So when it comes to the matchup between when I looked at their stats and when I looked at Phillip Rivers specifically his film, very similar. Very similar. I'm going to go ahead and call this a draw. It's hard for me to compare when it comes to these two competing against each other. Very similar. When it comes to the competition at the quarterback position, Micro Mike gives it a draw. The offensive line for the Los Angeles Chargers is Russell Okung, left tackle, Forrest Lamp, left guard, center Mike Pouncey, right guard Schofield, as well as Sam Tevi is the right tackle. This group was actually considered the 29th ranked offensive line per Pro Football Focus. I'm not going to think they're that bad. I think they're a little better than the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals had a bad offensive line, but I think their center Mike Pouncey is really good. I think they do have a decent left tackle at Okung. I think they got a decent offensive line. I wouldn't say 29. I would say it's not great though. I mean, Phillip Rivers got 4 sacks. He was getting hurried a lot. They did well when it comes to running the football. Not extremely positive. But it's all different when it comes to each game, and I think when it comes to their offensive line, it's not too bad. Now let's go to the Detroit Lions. We have obviously Taylor Decker. We got left guard Joe Dahl. Center is Frank Ragnow. Right guard is Glasgow, and right tackle is Rick Wagner. The 4, besides Taylor Decker, did well in my opinion. They're opening up holes. They're keeping Stafford fairly upright, but with Taylor Decker on that left side, he had an awful game between the flags as well as the sacks and rushes. He was getting beat a lot. They have Joey Bosa, and where Decker has got to be protecting Stafford. This is a mismatch in my opinion. If Taylor Decker has a game like he had last week, it's going to be a bad day for Matthew Stafford. Simply off Taylor Deckert, advantage, a little bit advantage. I'd say 1 point advantage goes to the Chargers on this one. But if the Lions decide to give left tackle Deckert some help and put a tight end over there, that would be greatly appreciated because he's going to have a long day with Bosa. And if he did what he did on Sunday, boy, Stafford's going to have a long day. So advantage, Chargers, 1 point. Let's go ahead and jump to the running back position. We'll start with the San Diego Chargers. They had 21 attempts for 125 yards. Most of it came from their starting running back, Eckler and Jackson. And they did decent. Not great, not too bad, but decent. I believe that if our defensive line can step up like they did in the first quarter, we can pretty much shut the run game down, and I think there's going to be issues. I think that this is an area the Lions can take advantage of when it comes to Snacks Harrison and Mike Daniels. I believe they're embarrassed on Sunday with their performance, and I think they're going to come out much stronger. And that's what they're good at, is stopping the run. So as long as our offense can sustain some drives, it shouldn't be as bad. Now let's jump to the Detroit Lions, where we have Kerryon Johnson and CJ Anderson mostly, with a combined of 32 attempts for 116 yards. You see there, 32 attempts, they're attempting to run the ball. Now, again, it was okay. It was not better. It should have been better, in my opinion. I believe that, again, that left side hurt us, specifically opening up the holes. But again, I think with our fullback push and TJ Hockenson, we can get better results than we did on Sunday. And I think the Detroit Lions has a 1 point advantage in this sense because they are going to run the ball. And I believe that our defensive line is just going to be a little bit better to stopping their run. So advantage Detroit by 1 point. Let's go ahead and jump to the wide receiver position. Let's start with San Diego first. They have a really good wide receiver in Keenan Allen, who had 8 receptions for 10 targets for 123 yards and a touchdown. The guy is a really good wide receiver, and that's something we got to pay attention to. And their running back received a total of 6 for 7 for 96 yards, so he's a receiving threat in the backfield, and he can be utilized somewhat in kind of what Theo Riddick did. So that's another individual we got to pay attention to, whether we decide to cover him with the linebacker or throw a safety near. We need to keep an eye on that guy. Their tight end is Henry. He had 4 receptions, 5 targets for 60 yards. He's a decent tight end, and again, it's something we got to pay attention into the middle. But again, I feel like Tavai will help us out stopping the tight end, and if Jared Davis is back, he's going to do that as well. When it comes to the Detroit Lions, obviously we have Kenny Galladay, we have Marvin Jones Jr., we have Danny Amendola. The wide receivers that we have, I think their number 1 is better than our number 1, we'll put that, but I feel like our number 2 and number 3, if they can do a better performance like they did on Sunday, I think they can do much better. And we obviously have the tight end in TJ Hockenson, who is just an absolute beast, and he received 6 receptions for 9 targets for 131 yards and a touchdown. That will be the difference maker when it comes to receiving the ball in the wide receiver / tight end. He will be the difference maker. I do give it advantage, Detroit Lions, by 0.5 of a point though. Keenan Allen is no joke. He's an absolutely good wide receiver, and Darius Slay needs to be on him all day. And if we've seen anything from Darius Slay, we know that he is well when he's covering folks on an island. So advantage Detroit by 0.5. Let's go ahead and jump to the defensive line. Let's start with the San Diego Chargers. They have a scary defensive end and individuals on that line that can really hurt us. Let's start with Joey Bosa, a fantastic defensive end who's going against Taylor Deckert. That is going to be something we have to worry about all game long. They have Melvin Ingram, another player that is scary that can get after the quarterback. Their defensive line on the ends is absolutely just straight scary. They have individuals such as Isaiah Rochel and Darius Maben that can really hurt us. Their defensive line is nothing to play around with. It is going to be a long day for the Lions if they cannot hold that defensive line. We're going to have to throw some help there. And Stafford's going to have to get rid of the ball fairly quicker, because if we hold on to that ball, man, he's going to be feeling a lot of pain. So when I give the Chargers defensive line, I give them a great grade. Now let's jump to the Lions defensive line, who we had Kennard, we have Snacks Harrison, maybe Deshaun Hand may play, we're not 100% sure. Mike Daniels, Ashawn Robinson is Flowers. Those guys are fairly well stopping the run, but we need to worry about getting after the quarterback. I felt like Kennard, he did well getting after the quarterback, but he's utilized as a linebacker, but we have a hybrid system, so I'm going to go ahead and throw him in there anyways. But our defensive line right now is probably much better when it comes to stopping the run right now than getting after the quarterback. This is something that we need to see improve on. And we need Flowers to step up and get after the quarterback. We need Snacks Harrison to stop the run. We need Mike Daniels to do the both. And if Deshaun Hand can play, that will be the X factor in my opinion. Deshaun Hand is a really good defensive tackle / defensive end. He's utilized in many different positions. If he can be in there, it's a difference maker. Not 100% sure if he's going to go just yet. So I'm going to head and give the Los Angeles Chargers the advantage here of 1 point. Right now, they are proven scary. Let's go ahead and start with the linebackers of the Los Angeles Chargers. They have Davis, Denzel Perryman, and Nwasu. I apologize if I destroyed your name. I am known for destroying names. They have a decent linebacker position. They're set up fairly well for what their division they're in. They have to compete because they got to go against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're built well for that linebacker position. I think they're good in coverage. I think they have the ability to blitz. That is definitely someone we got to watch, is Perryman. I think he's a fairly good linebacker, and hopefully, just hopefully, we have the ability to exploit them though on the run game. I think the Colts nearly got 200 yards rushing. I think that will be the advantage for the Detroit Lions is doing the run game, and getting through the defensive line and past the linebacker will be the X factor for this, but I give them a decent linebacker position. Let's go ahead and jump to the Detroit Lions linebacker position. As we know, we got Tavai, we got Kennard, who is a hybrid, we got Jalen Reeves-Maybin possibly starting, we got Davis, we don't know if he's going to be in there, there's a couple question marks, but our linebackers are fairly well as well. They did well in the first half of the game. I think the defensive line on Sunday simply got really tired. But in my opinion, the linebackers did well. I think Jalen Reeves-Maybin is a really good individual that can play for the injured Davis right now. But even when Davis gets back, I think he can be utilized a lot. Obviously, Kennard can get after the quarterback, and we have the ability to drop back. I think advantage Detroit Lions by 1 point. Again, from what we saw from the Colts, is they let a lot of running plays get through them, and I think that may be their weakest point for a very strong team, though. So that's not saying anything bad about the Chargers. They're a good team. Let's go ahead and jump to the San Diego Chargers for the secondary. We'll just do secondary hold. They got Davis, they got Jenkins, Phillips, King, Watkins, and Williams. I think they got a decent secondary as well. I think they have the ability to make some plays, but it really all depends on the defensive line for the San Diego Chargers. If they can get at the quarterback, Matthew Stafford, then they're going to make more plays. If they cannot, they're going to get hurt. I don't think they're super elites, like a number one stud, but they're a good combination. It's something we do have to look at, folks. We do have to look at, and they're no slouch as well. But I think they have some good secondary pieces, and with the right plays that they make on the defensive line, that can hurt us. And Matthew Stafford's got to watch out for getting turnovers. Let's jump to the Detroit Lions. Obviously, we have Darius Slay. We have Rashawn Melvin and Coleman in the slot when it comes to Diggs and Walker at safety. Our secondary is very, very good. Absolutely good. Darius Slay is a individual. You put him on an island, he's good to go. Rashawn Melvin has proved himself to be a very solid number 2 cornerback. We got him from Oakland, and Coleman was a great nickel corner when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks. However, he did have an up and down game this last game. I think the safeties, obviously Diggs is a hard hitter. He needs to tackle a little bit more. He made a couple of mistakes, but he made a lot of good plays. And Walker is an up-and-comer. I think the Detroit Lions do have an advantage in the secondary in this field. But again, just like with San Diego Chargers, it all comes down to pressure. If Phillip Rivers got all day to pass it, it doesn't matter how well your secondary is, he is going to get the ball down the field. And it all depends on who they play as the number 4. As the Lions had Jamal Agnew, he played very, very poor. And if they decide to put him out there, if the Chargers decide to go 4 out, 5 out, we're going to have issues there as well. Maybe they play Mike Ford. But I think that the Lions do have an advantage here, and I would give it advantage Detroit by 1 point. With that said, folks, when it comes to what I compared with the talents on the team, it's a very evenly matched game. This is a game that I feel like it's going to be a mirror game where they're going to look very similar when it comes to offense and defense, and it's going to be an absolutely, absolutely close game. It could be one of those games that come down to the final drive of the game, whether it be Matthew Stafford or Phillip Rivers. This is going to be a good game to watch, but it's going to be a hard game to watch as well, because I think both teams' fans, we're going to be anxious as all can be, because it's going to come down to the wire. It is at Ford Field. I'm going to give, you always give a little bit of advantage, obviously, to the team that's at home. And I think Vegas has got the Chargers winning by 3. I got this as being a squeaker. I think the Lions will win 31-30. And that will be the final score, and it will be a close one where Stafford's going to have to come back and score, whether it be for a field goal at the end or a touchdown on the final drive of the game. I think this one, folks, is where we're going to be in our seats, but ultimately the Lions have no choice but to win this game. Absolutely no choice. I feel like it's playoff mode for them right now, even though it's only been 1 week. But they got a lot of big teams to play up against: Kansas City Chiefs, the Eagles, the teams in our own division. And the Chargers, they're going to be looking really hard as well. They got to play the Kansas City Chiefs twice. They got a rough schedule as well, and they're a very good team. So with that said, folks, tell me what you think is going to take place, what the score and the outcome will be. Audio.